I'd like to introduce into our conversation now Charles Moyela. And Mr. Moyela is a journalist from Nigeria, and he joins us live now on the line. A very good afternoon to you, Charles, and thank you for your time today. What is happening at the moment in Nigeria? What is the temperature like, specifically in the wake of the shootings that took place last night in Lekki?
Thanks, Thami. Thanks for having me. So, as you know, this is beyond police reforms. As we speak, as of this morning, depending on who you were speaking to, reportedly between 10 to 70 persons were either injured or some of them died last night. Many of them are in hospitals. The governor of the Lagos State has gone on TV this morning to say that he was not responsible for the shootings last night. Clearly, Nigerians are not satisfied by this response. And the entire incident, of course, puts a huge question mark on the democratic credentials of the central government. People are not satisfied with the governor's response. They are also not satisfied with the federal government's response to this, which has been largely silent and essentially to issue pronouncements. Like you know, Nigerians are tired of pronouncements. There is a history of unfulfilled promises over the years, and this is what is fueling the anger and angst on the streets. As we speak, reportedly there are several parts of Lagos being vandalized. Some of the court buildings on the island, Lagos Island, not too far from where the shootings took place, were vandalized, and a few banks buildings have also been vandalized. And essentially, there is quite disorder in town, as it were. The government authorities yesterday imposed a 24-hour court on citizens, so many people are at home, but this has not stopped protesters from going on the streets.
Charles, if you could just backtrack for us and perhaps paint a picture as to what it is that has led to this tipping point. SARS has been there as a special anti-robbery squad for decades now, and 2 weeks ago the protests erupted. What is it that caused this change of gear in Nigeria regarding SARS?
So SARS was set up in 1992 by the police as a special police unit set up to curb armed robbery and other forms of violent crimes. And like everything else, they started off well, but they soon became very unruly and very unprofessional. And over the years, reportedly, they've been involved in hundreds of extrajudicial practices and killings across the country. And one incident 2 weeks ago or thereabouts just triggered off this public angst against SARS. And then, of course, it's morphed into a bigger thing. It's not just seeking for the reform of SARS and the disbandment of SARS and the reform of the police. It's also a call by Nigerians for widespread reforms, including constitutional reforms, if I may say.
When you talk of widespread reforms, how widespread are these reforms that they're calling for? We have some of our reporters who are on the ground here in Johannesburg as well as Cape Town who are covering protests by foreign nationals and Nigerians who are living in South Africa. And some of them have been calling for President Buhari to step down, calling for the current leadership, which they have called dysfunctional and incompetent, to step down. What is the sentiment generally in Nigeria regarding the leadership? Are Nigerians in the motherland, Nigeria, also calling for similar action?
The sentiment on ground now is there is a call by the younger generation for younger, innovative thinkers in government. As you know, Nigeria is close to 200 million people in terms of population, and close to 60 to 65% of that are people under the age of 30. So it's a huge youth demographic, and they are calling for a generational shift in the order of things. So it is not just about SARS, it's not just about police reforms, it's about reform of the legislature, it's about reforms of the public sector, it's about changing the ethos of governance and the way things are done, which desirable. I spoke with a top businessman earlier today, and he said to me that, look, we have to do this clinically if we are to, really address the matter. And he said to me that two things were needed in Nigeria now. One was constitutional reforms and the need to restore merit in everything we do. So we have a defective constitution, and then we've destroyed meritocracy in the system. So we need to fix these things.
Now, Charles, we were speaking earlier on to the chairperson of the African Diaspora Forum, and he was telling us that he has spoken, or they have spoken, to the president of the African Union, who also is the president of South Africa, President Ramaphosa, asking for intervention from the African Union. Historically, has there been enough of a voice from the African Union? Is this a body that Nigerians also look to for potential intervention?
Yes, certainly. It's not just a Nigerian thing anymore, it's a global cry. Nigerians and friends of Nigeria around the world are seeing what's happening almost live through social media, and technology has enabled his exposure of what's going on. With regards to government and governance of the African Union, Nigerians have not benefited, in their view, much from central structure which currently exists. They also have not benefited much, as it were, from the African Union. They would like to have an African Union which has a louder voice, which has more influence on the leadership at the central government in Nigeria.
And where to from here, Charles, on the ground in Nigeria now?
Pardon me, what did you say?
Where to from here now that the shootings have taken place? The governor has come out saying they were not responsible for this. Is this enough for Nigerians, or is there a sense that they're still going to continue with these protests?
There is a curfew in Lagos State right now, so most citizens are home. There is also various announcements which seek to contain the public disorder in other parts of the country. So we're moving from a public health crisis, which of course was caused by COVID-19, to a public safety crisis. That's where we are now. And while there are many people at home keeping safe, there are angry and disenfranchised youths on the streets who believe that enough is enough and that they will go ahead with the protest. Of course, there is a very disconnected framework for the protests. They say they have no leaders. They say it's just young people who are angry who need to go out. So in terms of organization, it's been difficult for government to pin the arrowheads of this campaign. And right now, that is where we are. There is quiet of some sort, but it's clearly a piece of the graveyard.
Mr. Moyela, thank you so much for your time and your insight this afternoon. That's Mr. Charles Moyela, a journalist from Nigeria, giving us a sense of what exactly is transpiring there on the ground, that country under curfew. And, we tend to forget this somewhat when activities and uprisings of this nature happen. The fact that we are actually still in the midst of a COVID-19 crisis, something that Charles noticed and spotted out there, the fact that there is a COVID-19 crisis that's still underway, but certainly that not being enough to stop the protesters from calling for justice and wanting justice.